Alright. Hi, every pony. This is Ribonchan with my very first podcast. This is definitely a little bit different than what I usually do, but I wanted to try it out for myself. So, here with me, I have my boyfriend, Sentinel. And we decided about doing this for the sake of Valentine's Day, or Hearts and Hooves Day in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I think most people have known, at least in our little circle, that, well, him and I have been together for a long time. Well, okay. Well, pretty much close to a year, I would say. We'll be a year in a couple months. Right, honey?
10 months and counting. And you've been hinting at it in your video comments. Descriptions, not comments.
Yes,
I'm drunk,
exactly.
excuse me. That's
Yes.
what's cider sampling at the without like what? Chickens.
Anyway. So I guess basically, since there have been plenty of people who have known about us for a while, we decided on doing this, to, well, basically tell a little bit more people about it, and, well, I guess to tell you guys about us in general. Well,
Prepare to be enthralled.
okay. How should I how should I start this? Um
Mhm.
well, let's see. I guess we'll Senti, do you want to start?
Sure, honey.
Mm-hmm.
We've been friends for a very long time. Our families knew each other a while back. It was a brief friendship before either of us hit our tens, before I moved away from her. And we kept contact for a little while, but due to my difference in interests, I guess you could call it, video games. They're they can be really bad for you. Just a heads up. We slipped out of contact, and about 2 years ago, I would say, 15 years after we lost contact with one another, this young lady right here finds, I believe it was a picture that I drew of a Pokemon character for your birthday before I left, right?
Yes, it was.
Based on those memories, she tracked me down and sent me a letter, and probably got a letter back that was maybe a little bit patronizing or a little bit disconnected because I didn't remember who she was at all, and I was expecting this to be a one-off. Like, oh, this is cool. This is a person from my past, and yeah, that's interesting. Now, I won't go into details at the moment, but the course of our lives led us into some bad places, and based on what was happening around us, we kind of bumped into each other more and more. Let me see how much of this I should censor. I'll drop a hint. Maybe, yeah. There's something the two of us have been working on, though I'm not going to say what. Through this secret something, we met an artist from Italy. His name is Colonel Walther, and he also became kind of entangled in our discussion circles.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was a clever son of a monkey fish. He individually asked us what we thought about pairing up with the other.
Yeah, he came to us separately.
Mm-hmm. Now, when he approached me about it, I brushed it off and passed it as a joke of some sort. Because
As
at the
did I.
time, yeah, things were a little complicated between us. Let's just say that. Uh, at the start, I actually didn't think of Rebon this way at all. I didn't like her like that. And then Walter cornered us in a Skype call late at night. He told us flat out, I think you two would look cute together. And one thing you're going to learn about me very quickly is that I'm a bit of a blabbermouth. In case my hint at there being a secret something wasn't a big enough description, or the other rantings that you will hear in the various YouTube videos that Rebon has posted.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And wanting to clear things up, that I didn't think of her that way, although maybe I'd had an inkling of it with her at one point. I just started blurting it out, and that made Rebun's feelings about the matter surface, because that information that I even thought of her at all uh, shocked her. And we started having an intense discussion, and Walther left, and Rebun asked me what I honestly thought, if I would be willing to enter into a relationship with her. And Rebun is a very, very nice young lady. In all of our conversations, she's been very patient with me. Most of the time when I haven't deserved it. She was always nice. She lost a boyfriend when we were talking to each other back and forth over the course of the 2 years that led up to this point. And she didn't really betray that there was anything wrong, apart from maybe the occasional discussion. She was strong for other people. Excuse me for not using the buzzword there. And because she was such a nice person, especially to me, I just said, okay, maybe there's something I'm not seeing here. Let's go with it. Because quite honestly, at that point, she had done so much to lift me up that it seemed wrong to shun her. And over the course of our consistent Skype calls, which were your idea, actually, that we see each other face to face more often, it
Yeah,
just
that's true.
grew. I'm happy to say that admitting not liking you was a mistake was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And if it wasn't for that meddling Italian, we wouldn't be together. Which is kind of
I
funny because I'm
definitely
mostly Italian
agree.
myself.
Yeah, well, kind of the reason is, yeah, both Senti and I, we came from some pretty bad relationships.
You could say that again.
Yeah, we're both very emotional people, basically. Like,
Oh.
like he mentioned before, I had dealt with a pretty bad boyfriend as far as that's concerned. But I won't go into humongous detail. I will say that I did feel betrayed by him in some cases. And well, it was ultimately me that had to break off the relationship ultimately. And it was very hard. Because, well, at that point, I never broke up with anybody before that point. So that's kind of what got it off. And, well, it just took me and Sentinel for the two of us to get together and us just constantly talking on Skype back and forth. And it was kind of a transition in some cases. Okay, sorry. Let me rephrase that. It was a transition. You know, for us to realize whether or not that we had feelings for each other. Now, of course, well, if Senti wanted to go into what happened to him, that's up to him personally. But yeah, we basically dealt with almost the same exact kind of relationship, which was kind of eerie, actually.
There are a lot of similarities between us, which makes me wonder if there's some sort of a time displacement or a mirror pool around here somewhere, and someone just did a gender swap. Which would be kind of disturbing because I'm not that narcissistic.
I didn't say that.
I mean, I'm an asshole. Excuse my Dutch, but actually, could you put a bleep over that? Let's keep it child appropriate here.
I'll have to figure that out eventually.
We spend a ridiculous amount of time together over Skype calls to just illustrate how long it took us to transition from our past relationships into each other. A typical Skype call between us can last 3 hours at minimum.
Maybe
I think the longest we
8.
went was, around 8. That's one of the longer ones we've done. So we talk a lot.
Yes, we do.
Probably explains why I never get anything done. I require a lot of emotional support. Okay. Maybe that wasn't too funny. Was it funny?
It was funny enough.
Okay. Well, better tell my end, too. I had a relationship with a girl coming off of, well, let me put it this way. When I say I'm a donkey, it's not always in jest. The first relationship that I had, I was the villain. And the girl that I was with rightfully broke it off. And at the time, I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So that led to at least 3 or 4 years of self-loathing. And I latched onto this girl my senior year to try to break myself out of it because she seemed interested and I was interested. We were both academics. And I wanted to go with her to the prom as a sort of redemption. Romantic coming out of the high school years. But it was her first relationship. And she was more concerned about her academics than maintaining a relationship. And it started to show. But again, because I was the villain in my first relationship, I didn't really catch on to that. Or if I did, I just pushed it aside. Told myself that I was the one at fault, not her. So it was a relationship history of a severe amount of neglect and self-doubt, which both of us went through. There is no experience over the course of my life that compares to how awful that was. And that was the state that I came to Rebon in. Because at the time, when she was in her relationship, I was asking her for advice. Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I impress her? How do I ask her out? And when it was finally over, just I emerged in a poisonous state of mind regarding relationships. And that filtered into how I perceived Reborn at the time. Thinking that there was really no point to it. I didn't want this because it wasn't worth the grief. But Reborn was always a good friend. And her being a good friend made me want to try for her, if nothing else. And hey, that she wasn't hiding anything. You weren't.
No, I wasn't.
That was the state both of us came out of, actually. And what was kind of funny was each of us in the relationships that we came out of tried to chase down the person we were with. And when we came together, it was more because we were just forced into it. Circumstance drove us together. And we've been just circling each other ever since, really. I hope I didn't get off topic about your question there. But not question. That was everything you wanted to discuss regarding that particular point, right?
Well, yes, basically so. Well, I guess, yeah, it's basically one particular point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
We live several states apart from each other, so Skype calls are the only interactions that we have. It is possible for us. Yeah, it's probably why we spend so much time on it.
Mm-hmm.
We can see each other. It's very easily possible, actually. Just a matter of money.
Yeah. He lives way up north than me.
Mm-hmm. We got a blizzard.
Well, recently you did.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, as far as that's concerned, yeah. I guess I'll kind of add on to what Senti had said. Yeah, Senti and I met when we were kids, and, well, the basics because of that is we're actually 2 years apart. I'm 23, going on 24, and he's 21. What is it?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, we met. I was about 8 years old at the time, and he was about 6. And basically, yeah, we were very little at the time, and yeah, our friendship was very brief at that point. And you were gonna say something, hun?
Well, I guess to correct myself, we haven't known each other for a long time. We've known each other across a long span of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a long span of time.
And she has yet to see me up north. I have seen her, though.
Yeah, he has actually come down here, to see my family and all that stuff. He spent a good week here with me. And
And she does have blue eyes.
Yes, I do. Yeah. My OC is basically me in pony form, basically. I do have blue eyes. I have slate blue eyes, actually. And as far as my hair goes, I don't exactly have like gold streaks in it. I have I'm a golden brunette basically. So I have highlights in my hair, like natural highlights, like red, yellow, something highlights. So yeah, I guess that's the best word I can describe it.
Mm-hmm. Based on that description, you'd think my nickname for you is Disco Ball. It's
Well,
not, although I might start calling you that. Maybe. Nah, that's a bad idea. Sorry. Stealing the spotlight.
that's alright. But yeah, basically, it did take us a little bit of a while after we got together and all that stuff to get used to it because the courtship was so sudden. My side of the story about it is I had come back from a food shopping trip with my mom, and basically I got into the call that Colonel and Sentinel were in at the time. And basically, I got in there, and that's when Colonel said that we would look cute together. And pretty much us, weren't we babbling like idiots?
You didn't say babbling like idiots. Well, maybe I was babbling like an idiot, but you seemed decently articulate.
Well, yeah, basically, as soon as Colonel said something to the two of us, Sentinel had blurted out that he had feelings for me, and I was like, what? Yeah, that's literally what I said, I remember.
Yes, that was.
Needless to say, you know, we didn't know what to say, and we kept on, like, brushing it off, like, no.
Nah, you crazy, man. You crazy, stupid dummy. Back into your bastard.
Unbeknownst to Senti at the time, I think when we went to see, when I saw him through our webcams for the first time, because the first time we were talking on Skype, we didn't have our webcams on, so it was just our voices. Mm-hmm. So what happened was, when I first saw him through the webcam, I actually did get attracted to him. However, due to what happened with my previous relationship, I didn't want to push it, and, well, yeah, the past relationship I had, yeah, it left me kind of bitter. Which I know is definitely not the persona I present myself to be when I'm doing my YouTube videos and such. But yeah, I felt kind of bitter toward the whole romance idea for a while. So, of course, when I found out that I had feelings for him, I tried desperately to bury it within myself to make sure I didn't say anything or make it obvious. And I didn't even know what he thought of me at the time, and I was too scared to ask.
And it's a good thing that you didn't at the time, because if you had, we wouldn't be here right now, I don't think.
Probably not.
Circumstances had to line up. But yeah.
But yeah, we were both pretty emotional in that particular call, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes. I'm not ashamed to say that I've cried in front of her a bunch of times. Hello, YouTube. Now you know that. It's...
Well, it's being honest, hon.
It is.
Well, yeah, let's see. So as far as that's concerned, I guess I should probably, well, I believe a couple months before we got together is when he actually started doing Star Swirl for my videos. One of them, as you guys probably already know, was the first ever dub that I did of Timey Wimey, which was the first couple of pages where Star Swirl intervenes.
Yes.
And then he starred in a bunch of other comic dubs that I had featuring Star Swirl, and actually we do have one that's coming up, actually.
Oh no, why did you need to mention that one? Star Swirl, this is a private podcast. Please Leave. Lovebirds.
Are you guys sure I can't join? Pinky.
Yes!
Okay. Sorry. Going back to the
really
point,
bad.
because I think we just went completely off topic for a minute.
Yes. Just
Okay.
didn't see them.
Well, anyway, this is actually our first Valentine's Day together. Actually, this is the first Valentine's Day I actually have spent with a boyfriend, actually.
Mm-mm.
Never really got that in my past relationships. What do you have to say on that, Senti?
Number one, that's sad as all heck.
Well,
Number
it's
two.
true. I told you.
It is true. And this is first for both of us, I would say. Although, I'm not sure that you could really say I had a girlfriend in either case by Valentine's Day of any year. At that point, most of the relationship was downhill.
Yeah, I think in the same way it was for me. But of course, well, I guess maybe we should go into the whole fact of what we do like about one another.
I fell in love with her voice. That was the first thing. She's part siren, Wormcake. Eat your heart out.
Oh, God! I think she's gonna kill us if she finds out about that.
Let her try.
Sorry,
Starswirl's my
Cupcake,
roommate.
we did not mean that.
I'm playing.
And for good God, don't have me drawn as a siren, please.
Oh, we're going that route, are we?
Okay, excuse me.
Yes.
Well, for me, well, it was also his voice, but, well, I know you probably know the other one, which
She likes eyeballs.
To put it so delicately, yes.
As
Yes.
delicate as the foot of a duck.
Yes.
Yes, I call
it. Yes, it was his eyes when I first saw him. When I first saw him through the webcam, that was one of the main attributes that did attract me to him. But the voice came first. And while I've always loved his sense of humor, his smile, his laugh, he makes me laugh all the time.
I try for you. I think I try for you more than for any other person around. And may I add that my sense of humor has only gotten better with time because of her. So it's an interesting cycle of giving and building that we have.
Do you want to go into the whole thing of how you got into the fandom in general?
Oh yeah, that. It was all her. It was her idea. I'm just gonna put that out there right now. I got into it because of my girlfriend. And, well, sometimes I question whether or not I call myself a member of this fandom because I don't really participate very well in it, but...
Oh, nonsense. Come on.
At this point, it's pretty solidified because I'm voicing a character and everything. Let me see. What was the trigger? I remember that there was a fanfic you really wanted me to read, and it was a long one. And at the time, I'm not going to say which one it was, and no, it's safe for work, so calm your wings. Yes, you! Jimmy in the background, yes, you! Hey! Down. Need to sit outside? Okay, good. Sorry. I'm seeing things. We don't have an audience here. There's people in their bedrooms. This is creepy. You're watching me in your bedroom. What is this nonsense?
Okay.
There was a long fanfic she wanted me to read, and at the time I was really not thrilled about the idea of getting involved in this. But once again, because Ribbon had been so kind to me in the past, I said, okay, I owe it to her. Might as well give it a shot. And besides, she's going to know if I don't read it anyway. If I just skimp it, then she'll be able to tell. And to be honest, I did skim some of the chapters because I couldn't stomach what I was reading at first. But I read enough to know what was happening, and we started having discussions about it, and then something else happened with it. And the more we discussed it, and the more I did things with her involving the fandom, the more I kind of grew to appreciate it. Coming from a background of studying and playing things that involve a lot of darker themes and sometimes downright destruction, this was a welcome relief. So I grew to appreciate it, and it's really the lens that I view Reborn through. I'm not sure that I would continue to do this if it was just me, but as long as Reborn's around, I'm here. And it was all because of a fan fiction. We even got to talk to the author for a while, which was nice. And since then, we've kind of made our own little forays into the fandom. Reborn much more obviously than me. Very obviously.
Yeah, that is true.
And now,
Well, I think you kind of mentioned how I officially got you into it. More than just the fanfic. I believe I was showing you a bunch of videos of the fandom that's very well known, and
oh yes, that's right. I remember now. It wasn't the fanfic, because I was iffy on that, but I did that for Reborn. It was Warpout's video for Lullaby for a Princess. That was what netted me in the fandom, because the music was good, the story in the background was good, and the animation was handmade over the course of 2 years, and it was constructive, and it reminded me of some of the things that I liked to read when I was a little younger. Like, that was something that people who genuinely loved what they were seeing had built, and it was a little bit more grown up, admittedly, than the source material, but it is a stellar piece of work, and I will continue to see it as a stellar piece of work for a very long time. And if you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's worth a watch. Once that was over, because I'm a nerd, I started looking up things on the wiki regarding the show, and developed sort of a lexicon in my head of some of the backstories and the histories and whatnot. And by then, it was too late. And I started complaining to Reborn more and more. What are you doing to me? How did I get into this? Look at this.
oh yes, I remember you doing that.
Pretty much every other conversation, I started complaining to you, like, what have you done to me?
oh yes, I do remember that. And I think that you also had something to do. I think you've written something about that.
What? Well, you might need to remind me in the private chat, because you're talking Chinese to me right now. I don't know Mandarin.
All right,
sorry.
I'll remind you later.
Okay. Off the top of my head.
But yes, I do remember you saying that to me.
Yes. Which, well, because you've mentioned your OC, I guess I should mention mine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fall in line with our pattern of discussion at the moment?
Mm, well, it's definitely a topic to bring up, hun.
For those of you who don't know, I'm a chicken. Or I'm like an eighth to a quarter chicken. It's based on an aspect of it's based on an aspect of my name that I just rolled with and created a character out of. And this character was supposed to be a joke for actually my real OC was supposed to be Earth based. He was a I won't mention him by name because I might use that character for a story at some point. But he was Earth based and he was kind of bland colored, or maybe even I'm not going to go that far. And I developed that character as my official OC, and this guy, Sentinel, as sort of the joke write-off, like the distaff counterpart. And the more that Rebon and I spoke, the more this character seemed to grow in prominence, and I'm officially known as the Rooster Cult now, among the little circle of friends that we have. To which they happily make jokes that I'm either a mimic of Scootaloo, or they say some variation of Kentucky Fried Chicken or barbecue or something to set me off.
Oh God, especially Speedy. Oh boy.
Looking at you. You can have your Scootaloo, but I'm the chicken in the East, and remember that. The
But
wicked chicken
yeah,
in the East.
but yeah, basically, I think you also wrote a backstory for Senti, for your
Quite an
OC.
extensive one, yes. Which is linked with yours, sort of like our real stories, although the backstory and my personal life are kind of different.
Well, same here.
If we want to delve into that, I guess I could make a synopsis. That this little guy here runs his own delivery business. Because he's based on a chicken, he has impaired flight. He can do short bursts, but he can't fly proper. So his business is known as Cloudhopper, and he lives in a lighthouse in a little town far to the north of Manhattan. And what else do I say about him? I'm supposed to be shorter than Rebun by an inch or so, in keeping with the style of the character. And Senti is also overly curious, and that's one of his biggest traits, as well as one of his biggest flaws. It's gotten him into trouble a few times. But as many other guides to character creation in the fandom and outside of the fandom will tell you, flaws help make the character. So they stuck around. And he's been kind of difficult for other people around us to identify artistically, I guess. Because there are particulars about him that only I know. And I haven't drawn up anything about him myself yet, except when he's wearing something. Like there's one where he's in a suit of armor, and Rebon, you know what I'm talking about, which doesn't really allow for full display of his character. Are we really talking about this? It seems kind of bland. Excuse me. I've been awake since 3 a.m, so. Even the name Sentinel is a play on the idea of a rooster, because that's what a rooster does. He watches over the roost, heralds the dawn, or whenever roosters crow, and they can crow at weird intervals. They don't just crow when the sun rises and sets. They have their own time schedules, which is interesting. It's the idea of someone watching out, which also contributes to his living in a lighthouse. So the whole character is just one giant play on being a chicken. Although, with the exception of him being a coward in certain scenarios. Casual conversation not being one of those scenarios. He's definitely a coward there. Now, Ribon, your character name is a little bit more obscure because you use a title of some sort on your YouTube banner, correct?
Huh?
Your OC, her name is not your official channel name.
No,
Ribon
it's
is
not.
more your pen name.
No, that's not the one. Well, I do have an official name for my OC, which is Caramel Breeze. And I guess I'll delve into a little bit of her backstory. Basically, I kind of based it on some things in my personal life, and some I basically made up a little bit. But some of it is based on real events. So, my OC was born in a place called Bridal Cove, which is basically an island of sorts that is a couple miles away from Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And basically, she was a blank for most of her life. That is, until Senti comes back into her life, and he helps her with getting her special talent. Her special talent is, well, she's a writer. But, however, she had difficulty trying to get that ability. I mean, she had tried to get that ability before, but it always didn't seem to work because no matter how hard she tried and, lost some inspiration and such, she almost didn't think, she was pretty much doubting herself. Pretty much thinking, oh, maybe it's something else, and basically from there, it got her to get bullied quite a bit. She got teased quite a bit for it. And she meets kind of like how Sentinel and I met in real life. It's kind of in the same ordeal of how our OCs met when they're foals. And that's and basically kind of similar from there. And then it just kind of goes from that point. And then the way he helps her get her cutie mark is he helps her actually write something. I believe maybe for a contest or something like that. And that's when she actually receives her cutie mark, which is what you see on my Pony Sona right now. Well, this picture, you really can't see it all that much, but I think you would probably get the idea.
It's a pencil inside of a heart.
Yes. It's simple. I might change it up, who knows. But yeah, it's a pretty simple little thing, which I guess maybe I should go into how I came up with her design. Let's see. I don't know if I actually mentioned this or anything like that, but basically how I designed my OC, when I first started getting into the Brony fandom, it was about April, May, somewhere around that range in 2012, when I was first starting getting into it. It took about a couple months for me to come up with an OC design. Originally, she was supposed to have all her hair down, and her hair was kind of like below her hooves almost. So it was very long, and I went with that from time to time. And I was like, nah, this probably would not work. So I kind of changed it up, and originally her coat color was originally supposed to be a light pink. But speaking of how I wanted the hair to be, I was like, no, it really doesn't, gel into what I have going on. So, so eventually I sticked away from the long hair idea, and I eventually sat there and kind of made it almost Fluttershy-esque, kind of, in a way. Except I decided to cut the hair just a little bit, like way a little bit, I would say, past her breastbone, I guess, like a little bit past where her wings would be.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what I put it in there, and I just I just changed the coat color to a dark brown, which is kind of like a chocolate brown, because I know that the people in our circle, they call me the Reese's Queen. Because Reese's is one of my favorite candies, and, well, she kind of looks like a Reese's peanut butter cup, actually. If you look at her hair and her fur color, it's kind of like that.
You'd call her the Snickers Queen because Snickers has peanuts and caramel at the same time.
Yup.
Which actually kind of makes sense for her because the advertisements for Snickers say they're supposed to make you feel better. Otherwise, you turn into Danny DeVito or something. And he's always like, "Get out of my lawn." That's Clint Eastwood. What?
But yeah, basically that's kind of how I came up with the design, and the cutie mark. Well, I don't know. As far as the cutie mark goes, I know it's not all that imaginative. But of course, I guess it does get the point across. Because she does more than just writing, obviously. She's also very book smart. She works in the Manhattan Library. And she's very book smart, kind of like Twilight in a way. But not like overly obsessive over it. But she's well read to a certain extent, and, well, she does try to. I guess we're gonna have to come up with another story having to do with these two, and how her smart, gets him out of some situations that he gets himself into.
I'm sure that there are lots of occasions that over curiosity could. Gosh, my grammar has failed me. I'm sure curiosity could cause a lot of problems. Over curiosity. Yeah, there'll be plenty of ammunition for that.
Yeah, that's for certain.
You could just say he gets stuck in a vent duct or something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But that's basically how I came up with her design ultimately. Well, I believe Senti pretty much got into how he created his.
Yes. Although it did go through many, many different variations because I couldn't decide which chicken I wanted to base him on. And in the end, it just sort of went with a generic color scheme. And it's kind of worked out, actually. Oh, yeah. I just remembered something. If you don't mind me taking over, that is.
Alright. No problem.
The reason my OC is this character and not the other tongue tied. The reason my OC is this one and not the other one, the Earth-based character, is actually Reborn again. When I was designing this character and the other character, she asked me to do the Star Swirl voice that I initially did for her timey-wimey comic. Excuse my diction, that was terrible. I call myself a voice actor, yeah, right. And I said, okay, let's have a go at this, whatever. And the results that you see on her channel came out, and she credited me as Sentinel, which was it was originally my fanfiction.net name. I just carried it over to YouTube because I thought this would again be a one-off, because at the time we weren't dating. And I got stuck with the character because, incidentally, his name was also Sentinel. Mm-hmm. And it was a happy mishap, but definitely a mishap. And in the same grain as what you were discussing with Caramel, when it comes to the special talent, the mark, let me just mention here that I still consider myself to be a closet member of the fandom. So there are certain words that I just don't say in order to avoid being overheard in my own house. And that limits my voice acting options. It also kind of limits private conversation, which is why I'm not saying cutie mark. Ooh, I said a bad word. My talent mark, let's call it that, a talent mark. My talent mark is a magnifying glass, which is supposed to symbolize inspection, investigation, and curiosity. Just curiosity, basically. And while I won't go into specifics, it came to my OC when he was still too young to speak. And he saw something that he didn't understand at the time, but he was aware that he shouldn't have been watching what he was seeing. So he ran off, and the burning of that image in the back of his mind made him basically Curious George, except he's more made of rubber. He's kind of cartoony. So he gets into a lot more trouble and gets knocked around a bit. I think I'm looking at this right now. There's one story leading up to when his family moves into the lighthouse where he climbs up the flue grate of a chimney and gets stuck. And in order to keep him from getting hurt, his mom has to sit underneath him in the chimney, entire body weight with her head, until a fire department could help break him out. If you're watching this with a couple, hopefully this discussion about ourselves has helped you in some way. Neither of us have been perfect. I'd like to think that more of the problems have fallen on my end, although you'd have to testify whether or not that's true. And if it hasn't helped you, I hope that it, at the very least, has made you feel a little bit more cozy, especially in these cold months. There's a lot more snow coming. Get your shovels. And in the meantime, I know who I'm snuggling with. What do you have to say, hon?
Well, as far as that's concerned, for some of the singles out there, don't give up hope. Eventually, you'll be able to find somebody in good time.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it will be someday.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of finding who you're close with.
Be willing to be wrong. That's my input.
I agree.
And also, be ready to make fun of yourself, because if you learn how to make fun of yourself and actually laugh about it, then you start to understand comedy and humor. And that's a pretty important tool to have when you're going through a smaller, darker phase of your life, or when you are just in your teenage years. To have a sense of humor, it's good for you.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
It will also help you think things through about yourself.
That would definitely help. Well, as far as that's concerned, I guess that's the end of our little discussion here. Because I think we've been rambling on for the past hour, I would say.
With lots and lots of dramatic pauses.
Yes, lots and lots of dramatic pauses.
Guilty as charged. Rebon? Thank you for inviting me onto your channel again.
Not a problem. And this ends the podcast. I hope everybody will have a wonderful Valentine's Day, whether you're single or you're taken or not sure if you want to or not. Hopefully you have a wonderful night in general. Until next time, I'm Ribonchan. I'll see you guys later.